Hello, folks. Welcome to the Learn.Grow.Deploy show again. And this week, I have a wonderful guest, Sandeep Gulati from Peerbridge Health. Sandeep, so happy to have you on the show this week.
Mark, delighted to join you. And again, look forward to being able to talk to you and your viewers.
Absolutely. So thankful to have you on here. I know you have a very vast amount of experience in the healthcare space, in the AI space. And we just met maybe a couple months ago chatting on LinkedIn. But first question I have for you, just give the audience a little background on where you come from, how you got started in the AI space. They'd be really happy to hear about that.
Okay. So I started again at here in the US at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory back in late 80s and early 90s. And while I was in one of the largest computational machine intelligence groups.
Wow.
On neural networks is early days and robotics. And again, was running a program for the defense community and on PI on a number of programs. So two particular programs that are in heavy AI content were, one, we were building training systems for US Army commanders. They were So in this particular program, these were combat simulation systems. They were training our commanders on how to respond to tactical situations. And part of the challenge is that you need software to be able to replicate the enemy. So being able to basically take different, let's call them red forces.
Okay.
Embody those doctrines, the warfighting doctrines, into software. And then create software or bots that can create situations which could be partly North Korean, partly Russian, in a sense. So using AI, machine learning, but also generative techniques to create situations to which then the US commanders would be responding to. And then at the same time, also had programs in intelligence preparation of the battlefield situation systems. So these are large systems that integrate electronics intelligence and satellite assets and again human intelligence, all of it to be able to provide estimates on what the enemy could be doing. A lot of the things are not visible. How to infer? So it's basically data, imagery, RF transmission, fusion, video fusion, and human reporting fusion. Being able to put together to analyze and make predictive assessments. So that again, for 10 years, I was on those programs. And then at the same time, moved into autonomous vehicles, spacecraft diagnostics and prognostics, being able to monitor against our unmanned spacecraft, build what I call long duration health monitoring systems. Finding out if things go wrong before they go wrong, and trying to, again, generate recovery responses. And that went on for aircraft and a whole bunch of programs.
Now, that sounds amazing. One thing that stuck out to me when you were talking about as far as training the Army and the staff, as far as, how to go against different types of enemies and so forth, that's really cool because honestly, I didn't know that type of thing existed back then. And it makes me think of now when you're talking about training, every time I hear training nowadays, when it comes to AI, it's talking about training models and so forth. So it's just the fact that you're talking about that training is actually for the actual human being, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, no, with that, I think the part most folks don't realize is that we've been working with rule sets, policies, and structured knowledge, structured discipline systems for a long time, right? Whether you work in the factory or whether you're working again in the aerospace or the defense, whether you're building systems, right? There's always engineering a structured knowledge component to it. And what we've gotten very good at is how to take that structured knowledge data, which we could do with AI, and turn that into models so that from a rule-based standpoint, we got several years ago technology when it comes to rule-based decision-making very good. What has now happened is that our systems are more perceptual. We can take real-time sensory input. We can take continuously evolving, a lot of unstructured, unrelated knowledge to multimodal fusion. So the nature of AI, I think today is 10,000 times from what it was back in 90 at the rate at which it's evolving.
Wow, no, that's well said, Sandeep. And, with that information you just shared, was that experience and you going through that and being a part of it, was that moment where you like, you know what? Okay, this is the industry I'm going to focus on. This is my pivotal moment that I'm just going to, just go all in the space.
I think it's always been, as I said, looking back, automation's been my thing, right?
Okay.
If we can do something, then there's got to be a way for software with the right hardware be
Hmm.
able to emulate, do it, and get better at doing it. So
Yep.
in a sense, the difference is that without generative AI, we
Hmm.
needed a human model.
Ah.
Somebody sitting there, whether it came to long duration monitoring, right? You all remember pictures of NASA's control centers, hundreds and thousands of people, looking at different
Hmm.
aspects, monitoring. So it was always about how do you take, for long duration monitoring or short duration monitoring, how do
Hmm.
you take the human out of the equation? Can we get
Hmm.
systems so good to be able to do all routine monitoring and at the same time be able to flag when you really need a person, you encounter new situations, which adds
Hmm.
to the knowledge. How do you bring the human into the loop? And sometimes the data tells you that there are 3, 5, 10 options available here,
Hmm.
and you've got to make the right bet. You need to bring
Gotcha.
human. There's a lot more context which is
Hmm.
outside the knowledge. So it's been, as I said, having worked in aerospace, space, sensors, security,
Hmm.
life sciences, a lot of medical device monitoring, geoseismology. So it's
Hmm.
always the same thing. Automation that amplifies our own capabilities and makes
Nice.
better, cheaper, more scalable. So the incremental cost of scaling
Mhm.
it gets lower and lower.
No, I love that automation piece you brought up, and you talked about some generative AI and what we could do with these, types of technologies today. And, when I'm thinking about whether it be natural language processing or, machine learning in the sense of, how it's evolved over the years and the generative AI, like what part in today are you most passionate about?
I think the fusion of all our knowledge to date and the ability to think based on real-time sensor data. I
Got it.
call that the generation operator.
Mhm.
Okay,
Got it.
and
Hmm.
and the second is right now we still have it's easy to get to one answer,
Hmm.
but being able to trade the optimal answer. So being able to generate at the same time 10, 20 alternatives, being able to
Hmm.
propagate more than one so that we are
Okay.
not locked into it,
Hmm.
and keeping that optionality, and in the process of doing that reasoning, be able to test it and then prune it. So generating, propagating, and acting based on multiple valid hypotheses. So that.
No, that's great. And so, Sandeep, in regards to Peerbridge Health, like, so how does that fit into everything? What all your experience, what you're doing now, like, what's going on at Peerbridge Health that our listeners would be excited to hear about?
So I think exactly in the same place, right? I like to start, kind of taking. So we make these cardiac wearables. It's an ECG patch, okay?
Nice. Okay.
And so again, the founder for Peerbridge, Angelo Acquista, he had the fundamental patents on a Gen 1 device. This was in
Okay.
2005, 2000 timeframes, right? And what
Hmm.
he did is, if you've ever had an ECG taken,
Hmm.
you put 12 leads on yourself
Yep.
and get, again, a fairly high resolution electrical picture of the heart. That's what
Hmm.
ECG imaging is all about, right? Through
Hmm.
electrical imaging, you infer. And and again, Eindhoven about 100 years ago got a Nobel Prize for this thing. So
Oh,
we took all that knowledge which Eindhoven did and our 12-lead ECG, and we created a very compact patch that goes, it goes on the chest and can
okay.
again image beats and rhythms. Okay. Now,
Nice.
what makes these patches or what makes cardiac imaging or electrophysiology even relevant is the following, right?
Hmm.
Just like molecular diagnosis, genomics is the
Hmm.
first line where you would see something going wrong, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, and if you can sequence, if you can see which genes are expressed, you know what proteins are going to be formed, right? Protein is a
Hmm.
disease, formation of certain proteins. You know when
Hmm.
cells go wrong, right? So it's the earliest level of detection, well before tumor. Similarly, looking at heart rhythms is such a powerful lens that if anything goes wrong to a person, your
Mhm.
ability, if you got any disorder, diabetes, kidney disorder, again, cardiopulmonary, something is wrong. We even have fever,
Mhm.
right? Our
Mhm.
heart rhythms shift. So looking at the lens of heart, you can tell when something is going from normal to an abnormal condition, not necessarily diseased. Okay, you can see that
Gotcha.
early enough. So it's a non-invasive, very inexpensive, but a very robust lens for
Mhm.
hundreds and hundreds of conditions. Just like a blood test is
Nice.
very powerful. Okay, and now the challenge it is so getting building on that lens is interesting. Okay. Again, so that's one. Second thing is because when you deal with wearables, you cannot put like 10 pounds of hardware on your body, right?
Right.
Top device, right? So these devices, it's a 20-gram device. Okay.
Mhm.
You got to pack in so much punch, give it so much intelligence that it's able to do sense a wide variety of conditions. Okay. So I'll
Mhm.
talk about same. It's sensors. You have a temperature sensor. It's sensing
Okay.
temperature. Okay, you
Yep.
have another impedance, a magnetic sensor is sensing. So so this device we want through electrical imaging with few electrodes, very very light, that's less than our 25-gram device, be able to send precursors from many conditions.
Wow.
So that means, as I said, relating to imaging. Now, here's what makes something not useful to the line between useful and others, right? It's good to know something is wrong. You got an arrhythmia, but today, Apple Watch can do a lot of that, right? So the
Mhm.
fact you have an arrhythmia is interesting, and you could go back there. But
Mhm.
but what's the doctor going to do? He's going to go do an ultrasound on you. He's going to do a cardiac MRI on you, right? He's going to
Mhm.
do another 50 tests on you for the next 3 to 4 months, which will cost five, 10, $15,000 to get
Mm.
conclusion that what is really wrong with you. Okay. But if you could wearing it for 30 minutes for certain conditions or 24 hours or 2 days or 3 days, get
Mhm.
that entire diagnostic cost done at 100th or 500th the cost of an MRI, and
Mhm.
you can provide a comprehensive report like we call core insights from this device is called core, right? You
Mhm.
can to the doctor, you can put the entire reasoning of why
Mhm.
the system thinks somebody, a patient who's symptomatic or asymptomatic at a risk, and provide data good enough for the doctor to know exactly the right action to take on the next patient who knows the consequences of waiting, then I think that's what's useful. You get an
Mhm.
early shot at
Mhm.
less invasive, inexpensive treatments. You get things
Mhm.
going early, you control it so that not everybody triage, right? So
Yep.
one statistic that you will see in the heart communities, 80% people discover they have a heart attack is when they go to the ER. It's the first time when they find out. Okay. These are
Wow.
older people, and that's where they're getting 80% of the people are getting diagnosed with heart failure in the ER.
Mm.
Okay.
Jeez.
And at that point in time, you got to go put catheters, you do an angiography, you got to do, again. So if you now these things, it's not that you're perfect today,
Mhm.
and 10 minutes later you're not perfect.
Ah. Gotcha.
Just like in any disease, there's a cardiac pathway. There's a pathway how you go through a whole set of conditions, how the rhythms evolve. So being able to use a device to be able to easily lock into those pathways
Mhm.
and see things months, years, some cases 5, 10 years ahead, being
Mhm.
able to monitor, get the right treatment is hugely valuable. And you can imagine the cost of healthcare, right? The difference is you cannot do an MRI, you cannot do a CT scan for a
Mhm.
couple of $100s, right? Get all. So
Mhm.
this device, if you could do the thing for for tens to a very low dollar number, the economic value and the health value and the prognostic value is created. Now here's where AI comes in. Okay, so
Mhm.
when you have few sensors and you're doing it non-invasively, you're doing it in a large set of peoples, and so you need to have trustable systems. The threshold on reliability is very high. False negative, you don't want to miss conditions. False positive means you don't
Yep.
send everybody to an MRI. The system cannot be telling you here's wrong. So you cannot work with high false positive rates or missed events. You can't do that, right? The second thing, which makes it a unique AI challenge, is our ECG is very non-specific, which
Ah.
means
Okay.
that if you all you're looking at is the ECG waveform,
Mhm.
okay, if you look at the morphology,
Mm-hmm.
Any change in morphology is related to hundreds of conditions, not two things, not three things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And second thing is that so the changes in the ECG are very non-specific.
Mm-hmm.
It changes. It's kind of like, it changes on a dime, right? Right now, you're shaking your head, right? You change your
Mm-hmm.
body a little bit more, your ECG is changing.
Mm.
And so, so this is called ill-posed and ill-conditioned. Second thing is that the changes you could induce in your ECG by just turning, moving around are greater than the changes due to a disease. So, for example, a person
Interesting.
who's normal has got high ejection fraction, means the left
Mm-hmm.
ventricle is working perfectly, right? His
Mm-hmm.
heart's pumping. This is suddenly has reduced ejection fraction. Has gone from an ejection fraction of 60 to 20. The changes are so subtle; they are less than the changes you would see normally in the course of your day. Okay.
Ah,
So
gotcha.
now being able to be able to map out when the changes are clinically significant, being
Mm-hmm.
able to back or infer what could be causing them, and what's the highest probability diagnostics
Mm-hmm.
is tough. So that needs a tremendous
Mm-hmm.
amount of computing power. So
Mm-hmm.
as I said, all aircraft, it's every AI problem worked for. This is kind of like it's a good convergence point. Their
Mm-hmm.
entire power begin to simple design, but still needing that same robustness in diagnostic is where Peerbridge is. So we're seeing how broadly can the power of cardiac wearables be pushed, so
Mm-hmm.
that you can cut down room full of diagnostic equipment, cut down thousands and thousands of dollars in cost and time, and
Mm-hmm.
provide the right information to the patient anywhere. Okay.
That's
And
awesome.
the other part with AI and what makes it possible, right, is
Mm-hmm.
how do you get that information in real time to the right person? So if
Right.
you're the doctor, how do you route it? I know most people would agree it's very hard to schedule an appointment with a cardiologist, right?
Hmm.
If it's not your next door neighbor,
Yeah.
then it could be weeks to 2 months till you could go see the doctor.
Wow.
So be able to at least and second thing is it's not that the doctor has the time. You bring down a hypothesis of 40 possible things that could go wrong. It's
Mm-hmm.
hard for doctors to make the time spend 3 hours looking, analyzing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
using AI, using generative AI to summarize, here are the conditions, here's the data that's driving, so that when you
Mm-hmm.
look at it, okay, within 5 minutes, you've got the condition, you've got the entire reasoning trace that now you can say, I can deal with this. I mean, the data is actionable. This person
Mm-hmm.
needs a pacemaker. I think you've got enough evidence. So
Mm-hmm.
how do you turn that using the data and its explainability into an actionable behavior?
Mm-hmm.
Because it still wouldn't help, right? If you're 6 months, you can't get to the patient. So
Right.
that's I think making clinicians time, giving them better information faster, better insights,
Mm-hmm.
so that they can react better for the patients.
No, I love that explanation, especially when you, thanks for showing the demo of the device. And to me, it sounds like definitely, by gathering all that data over time, you can use an AI for looking at these different trends. And then, of course, it helps with different data sets and so forth to be able to, make them even better and better as time goes on. With that being said, like, could you talk to our listeners a little bit about, you mentioned a lot, right? All these, the tech, the hardware, the data that doctors could use and so forth. But from a tech perspective, could you give a little bit of insight on like how you're making this happen? Like what kind of technologies you're using?
This is absolutely right. So let's just take a look at a good way to look at the tech. You see these two devices, right? One is
Mm-hmm.
Gen 1, one is Gen 2. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
They are generations apart.
Wow.
They're 2 planets apart, right? There's a
Mm-hmm.
4 grand difference, okay? And, and
Mm-hmm.
and what it does. So this particular device, approved 4 or 5 years back, has fixtures. You need to put it on fixture. You got to go charge it. You got to go download data, and
Gotcha.
it has the same electrodes, okay?
Okay.
So same electrodes, and this has the same electrodes, but you see this difference of one having, you got to put it on a fixture, pogo pins, you make a connection, fully wirelessly. So this
Ah.
is again, so let's talk about 4 or 5 differences in them. Okay,
Okay.
first is this architecture which Peerbridge invented and patented. Right, it
Mm-hmm.
has the Einthoven's triangle. So off the top, you can get up to 6 leads perfect waveforms. perfectly,
Wow.
right? With just a single
Hmm.
device. But sometimes when you see like a watches, they have one lead device. Okay.
Right.
And this is a six lead device out the gate. Second, the reason where we put it, you heard the term location, real estate.
Yep.
Location, this location is really, really important, right?
Hmm.
Because what happens is in a 12 lead ECG, we
Hmm.
have components. In one lead, you get only one plane of the ECG. Okay.
Okay.
But if I want to do structural heart, which means if I want to see changes in 3 dimensions on the heart or 4 dimensions over time, right? I
Hmm.
need a horizontal plane and I need a vertical plane component of the electrical field.
Mm.
Because if I have both those components, then like MRI, CT scan, I can now do again imaging in 2 dimensional structure changes. Okay.
Hmm.
If I have an atrial enlargement of the heart, if I got structural anomalies, then that's why I need ultrasound, I need MRI. They're all, again, volumetric modalities. Okay. So this
Hmm.
electrode and the firmware inside create a unique ability and the location to create a vertical 3 dimensional structure. Very
Wow.
important. Okay. And also, when you put it here in the technology, we use certain amplifiers.
Okay.
It's the signaling amplitude. Certain waves are not the same what you get on your wrist and everything, right?
Hmm.
This is the heart is right here. So the signaling needs to be as good and stable as though somebody put a wire, dug a hole, and through whatever way got in, put a catheter in my chamber of the heart or my aorta. Okay.
Hmm.
And so the signaling, the amplification is key, the firmware. Okay. The second part on the device is in order to go from 6 to 12 or higher leads, this one has multiple ECG chips with the same
Mm.
electrode. So now, and it has also chips that we could get to respiratory parameters, but we get
Hmm.
to direct respiratory impedances. So you've got synchronized ECG chips that are doing electrical imaging, but they're also doing a certain impedance imaging. Okay, why is that
Nice.
important? Because now we go from cardiovascular to cardiopulmonary modalities. We go to edemas and how fluid is building up. Okay, so that expands the population. Like
Hmm.
within the US, the range of coverage you have for people with cardiovascular, pulmonary, cardiometabolic disorders, or with decompensation, advanced stages or advanced conditions of heart failure, right? So having these multiple chips, the way they are positioned, the way they are interacting, the way they are imaging, you're getting a higher resolution, not only of the electrical properties, but also fluid buildups.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Wow.
So having said, so it's a yeah. So the technology and grid, so a lot of it goes. So in order to do it, at the heart of it all is software, which
Yep.
does what's called multiplexed imaging, right? So one is
Hmm.
the software is creating all these the vectors of the heart in all directions, is
Hmm.
doing volumetric estimates, is tracking changes, and
Yep.
it's able. You all heard of finite element analysis, right? When you do any design, any
Hmm.
mechanical design, like today we build cars and rockets, we do new simulation testing, we do finite
Hmm.
element analysis, right? So
Hmm.
these electrodes are designed so they work almost like satellites or they work like radar. You can generate an
Ah.
extremely high fidelity extrapolation of the electrical imaging. To
Wow.
give you a sense, we in a recent conference talked about uh, there are research systems by which you got to put a full array of 64 or 128 electrodes around you to get a high
Mm.
resolution feed, right? And let's take one application, mapping conductance, right? So for a heart to pump efficiently, it's got certain electrical properties, let's call it certain conductances, which means,
Mhm.
because that conductances are what charge the muscles to make sure that it beats in really right. Okay.
Right.
If you have electrical remodeling and if your heart is not conducting properly, which is either from one ventricle of the heart to the other side or from inside to the outer side, then your ability to contract is changing in simple terms, right? So
Mhm.
it's very often to decide what treatment somebody needs. Okay, you need to do a high resolution conductance map. So either you can do very very expensive instrumentation,
Mhm.
or you can do very sophisticated mathematics that we use in radar analysis, as I said, coming from the aerospace world. So being
Mhm.
able to extrapolate the electrical field in clever ways, right? and,
Mhm.
and compare those features and those high resolution inputs, which can then drive our next level of diagnostic algorithms.
Wow.
And then to make it easy, right? The other technologies we are, like today with Tesla and other cars, we are all used to over-the-air updates, right, in our phones. So
Yep.
this device is completely wireless. You load firmware wirelessly, you update, you change. So if two people need to, have different firmware, like it's not one shoe
Right.
fits all, right?
It's like an eSIM in it. Is that like kind of like an eSIM card in there, or how's that?
This is both Bluetooth and it has LTE, same SIM cards that go inside the phones.
Yep.
Is
Okay. Wow.
over secure networks. So once
Yep.
it's on the body, right? So
Yep.
in mobile cardiac telemetry or remote cardiac telemetry, if you have the right security keys and the authentication, you
Right.
can listen to my heart at any point in time. If you
Wow.
over BLE, you can see how my heart is doing. Right?
Amazing.
Walking into the patient, right? You don't have to wait
Yep.
for paper printouts. You can directly go streaming mode, right? I'm talking to you on a phone. I'm saying you're not feeling right. You have the ability. Patients can't do it. The device is approved only for, from doctors to get the information first.
Mm-hmm.
You can, right? So it's got full syndication, streaming, and you could listen.
Wow.
And you can change the diagnostics too, right?
Jeez.
Basically, selectively choose the lead you want to amplify, so that the data can drive what you do next in
What
telemetry.
you looking
So
at?
we used again, as the advanced technologies in imaging, in wireless, in mobile fusion to create the inputs, which then software can.
So with that being said, so from a learner perspective, a listener to this podcast, this is amazing. You basically have a device that is streaming real-time heart data.
Yes. The Coach
Amazing.
One vision device is a real-time heart data streaming device, right? Yeah.
Amazing. No, that's amazing. And then the doctors, they could see all, bring the trends up and all that on their end. Wow, that is so wow, that's amazing. I mean, so with that being said, like as far as somebody, you have a very interesting background since you getting into this, right? And you got into you start off with some of the military stuff that you talked about earlier, as far as working through the AI and the early days of it. And then now when you're talking about, streaming heart data and physical wearable devices in the health space, like somebody trying to get into this industry, right? Like what would be your suggestion to them if they want to get into the type of work that you're doing at Peerbridge?
So I think it's for any medical application, any automation, any robotics, right? We've now reached a point. As I said, I work with a number of universities and faculty and continue to collaborate and research, right? And along with students, I think there are at this point in time there are three things that come down to. We need to have a good understanding of the power of generative AI, how to use everything we are building, we are doing. So it's hard for me today to think of anything where, it's like we can't live without Microsoft Office. Call it
Right.
people are used to in a sense, right?
Yep.
And I think because these tools and whether it's the, it's again the Google notebook, same part, right? So today, whatever we do in any discipline across the board, understanding how generative AI, it really amplifies us by a factor of 10 to 50 is really critical.
Absolutely.
That's one thing, right? Second thing is rethinking our workflow with the AI paradigm. I mean in a formal way, right? The transposers. So we all say that as users, we just want to use the tool, but understanding. I take it to schools, right? Today, people are doing their homework assignments. Kids are doing it right there. I think understanding in the curriculum, just like we learn physics, chemistry, math, understanding AI, understanding generation, the generation processes, whether it's creating text, such as a music or anything, right? Whether learning, being able to think. A good, what I call an educational or a good technical grounding in generative paradigm is key. There will be no profession in a few years where we will not be using it.
Wow.
Okay? So we may as well find a way to work in a collaborative way with generative tool set that's coming our way for everything. Number one. Okay? That's the second issue is in medical devices, in the sensors and the materials.
Yeah.
are representing a huge paradigm shift, right? In order to, the machines are getting smarter.
Hmm.
Yes, through the power of software, but also because we are moving more and more into next generation materials,
Hmm.
next generation computing material sensing fused together. So
Hmm.
that's the second. The devices with which we build our devices today.
Hmm.
So those are key, right? And the third aspect that comes in, where do you compute? Okay.
Hmm.
So to say that everything is done in the cloud is only affordable for people who never use the cloud.
Right.
Being able to, if you've ever, again, it's as I said, cloud, using the cloud effectively, which means how do you compute at the
Hmm.
edge of the device? How do you,
Hmm.
while data is in motion, and
Hmm.
how do you compute back in the cloud? Combining, marrying the three, those are the three prerequisites, right? Being able
Hmm.
to distribute the computation,
Hmm.
both in the network, at the
Hmm.
edge, and at the back end. Those sort of are becoming the building blocks of engineering and of medicine, right? And
Absolutely.
and I think that's a and so this is what it comes down to: devices. Okay?
Hmm.
If you're able to do those three things effectively, our devices are going to become smarter. They are going to
Hmm.
become more multiplexed, which
Hmm.
means at the same time we will do more together. And the next thing that I said, I look at it, and we'll get to very early, is fusion of quantum algorithms.
Hmm.
We keep talking quantum computing, and for a long time ago, back in 90s, had incubated it for NASA. This is almost, the machines systems are now arising, but
Hmm.
I've seen the growth. And so what is being created, and is early days, is a new class of algorithms in from due to spearheaded or accelerated by quantum computing.
Hmm.
And what that's doing is propagating multiple hypotheses. What we don't realize, right, in our mind, we are not locked into only one course of action. We
Hmm.
are generating and choosing different course of action. So the class of algorithms and quantum computing are now creating a framework or a template how to propagate multiple hypotheses.
Wow.
And that's what makes us smarter, because now we are able to react. We are able to think, the machines are able to think, carry forward, maintain 10, 20, 30 hypotheses all
Hmm.
the time. So that it's very easy for them to shift, and you can do what's called non-monotonic reasoning, think forward and backward, and, being able to think differently. So that's the next marriage we will see. Uh,
No, I appreciate that and that advice for I appreciate you telling us that because for students, they're really gonna be able to take that knowledge, those three tips you gave, as far as especially learning generative AI and how to use it, and be able to help them get into the healthcare space. And it makes me think, when I'm working with data, even nowadays, and I'm working in the IT space and I have been in a while, but like let's say for instance from a healthcare perspective, you've got all these different heart records and you're doing comparisons of ones. I mean, it's rapidly coming upon us, with all this multimodal generative AI where you could take multiple image, multiple text data sets and put them all together and say, give me some trends analysis on this and create things from it. So that's amazing.
Right, and being able to, I think the generative gives the ability, looking at those longitudinally at different points in time, and
Hmm.
being able to shape this is what is happening to the patient. He
Yep.
started here, his
Hmm.
baseline. This is what changed, and this is what's going to look like for the next 10 years, right? We
Wow.
have a tremendous amount of empirical knowledge that we can now sort of propagate it in the forward. Time.
Well, Sandeep, that's a wealth of knowledge. I know the listeners going to have this conversation on repeat. Anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
No, I think we covered a lot of ground, except we are at an exciting time. Okay,
Hmm.
a lot of I think that the technology, as I was speaking, it, use the AI technology is becoming a true friend and an enabler.
Yep.
Okay, and I think and so being able to embrace it fully is kind of like a fabric you wear, right? Just
Right.
makes us that much more effective.
I agree.
And the other problem which goes on the flip side is that if we stay away and we do things the same way we do, there's a
Mhm.
risk of extinction. It's so the challenge really is that we think We try to deploy it right,
Mhm.
or we risk, our ability to contribute.
Well said. Well, Sandeep, thanks again. Thanks for joining the Learn, Grow, Deploy show. We'll see you in the future. Hey, I can't wait to see the next generation of that device once it comes out. So keep us in the loop on that. All right.
Look at that. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Sandeep. Thanks for watching this week's show. I hope you're subscribed. If not, be sure to hit that button. And also, be sure to follow me on social media like LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn Learning if you want to learn some cloud. And also, be sure to check out any previous episode you may have missed. See you in the next one.
Resonate.